this is. All right. Are we live at this point?
Yeah, we should be by now.
I think we were silent for like a solid minute.
Yeah, I know there's a delay, but I don't think it's that big of a delay.
Nice. Corey said Mike's out in the chats. Yeah. So welcome to episode, I think it's 213 of the Artcasters. It keeps feeling more absurd the more, like, the higher those numbers get. It's like, really, we've done. But yeah, so this is the show where we talk about the ins and outs of illustration, cartooning, graphic design, comicking, all sorts of fun stuff. And each week we have a rotating third guest. And I took a long shot. I haven't heard from Mike in a long time. He's been on kind of hiatus.
It's true.
And actually, I wanted to have him on to kind of talk about something he posted to Facebook that like really resonated with me. And I kind of think potentially might resonate with a lot of people. So I was like, basically, Mike, you want to come on and talk about this? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, sweet. Okay, we got you live. So, all right. So let's make the rounds as usual and just let everybody know where to find us. So this is my channel, so you know where to find me. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit that bell to get notifications whenever we're about to go live. And then you can read my comic on quarterlystories.com. Scott, where can everybody find your work?
You can find me at, I don't see I just put up my website, circworks.com. Also right now, I guess the main thing I'm promoting right now is my new YouTube series, Making Comics 101. I've launched the first episode, and previous to that first episode, we had kind of an intro episode and a bonus episode and a quick tip. And I think we've got another bonus episode that I just launched, Wednesday, and then tomorrow I'm going to have a quick tip. But yeah, so it's a whole series. Mondays is the big show. Then I kind of do a deep dive, like an exercise on Wednesdays, and then a quick tip on Friday, and that's going to continue on for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's like at least totaling 21 weeks, I think, is what we have. So it's pretty comprehensive. It goes every step of pretty much making the comics, at least the main bullet points of each one. But obviously there's so much to learn with making comics. You could go on forever. So I'm trying to wrap it all up in a nice package and put it out there. So I'm pretty happy with the results, and it seems like people are liking it. So that's what I'm doing. That's on my YouTube channel. So yeah,
that's awesome. And it's cool to see that launch. And if you guys haven't, really do check out those videos. They're cool. All right, Mike, where can everybody find you? By the way, our guest is Mike Emeritz.
Hello,
returning guest.
I'm back. I've crawled out of the cornfields. Come and say hi again.
Love it.
So yeah, you can find me finally at my own website. I got my own website for the first time ever. It's called cisphenocomplex.com. It's the name of my comic, and also sort of this I guess philosophy that I sort of have. I'm kind of like, that's going to be my branding moving forward. Cool. At least for a little while. We'll see. I'm going to be working on this comic a while, so it'll be up there for a little while. But yeah, you can go there. You could go Instagram and all the other places, but mostly there. Don't do YouTube or anything as much anymore. I don't even really update my website very much, but that's where you can find my most current stuff for sure.
Awesome. And I love that name because it just kind of, I know it's also descriptive of the story and stuff like that, but that's also a really great description of people who make comics.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
You're pushing that boulder up the hill, and it's always going to roll back. But yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's get into it. So do you want to recap kind of the post you made and kind of like the gist of like the thinking behind it, like regarding kind of like, I think you were considering like doing another 100 days or something like that. And you were like, I think you were you had just started 100 days of making comics challenge. And you kind of posited the idea of like, does anybody really like think it's bad to just quit if this is just causing you to like?
Yeah. I didn't even realize what post.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
that I don't remember exactly what I wrote,
Oh,
but
okay.
I mean, I lived that, and I definitely remember having some very strong feelings actually at the end of that last run.
Yeah.
I think the whole idea was sort of like, well, I mean, there was a lot to unpack with it actually. So to catch anybody up who doesn't know, because I did that challenge kind of in secret. So I've been kind of off the grid for a little bit, and then when I did come back, I wanted to do the 100-day challenge again for my comic, because I had to kind of put it all on hold for quite a while actually, because a whole bunch of crap was going on in my life. I mean, we had, I had my hand injury and all that, and then my wife lost her job, which was kind of like our cornerstone for everything that we've got going on. I'm taking a big chance on my 5-year plan and all that, and her being the main breadwinner in the family was kind of a cornerstone of that plan. I was still making money doing little side gigs and stuff, but it was important that we had that, and then we lost it. So it was like, okay, day job time.
Yeah.
And you got some more stuff to do. So I got a job for a while, got us a car, had to fix that car and get new brakes and new tires and all kinds of stuff that was like, oh, I guess I got to keep the day job a little longer. And then we moved down here, and it was just nuts. And so when all the dust settled, I was like, I'm frazzled. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I haven't even drawn in months. I should probably do the 100 days again. That sounds like a good idea. So I did it, but I did it in secret because I didn't want a big thing. I didn't want to make a big public commitment and do like a show or anything, because
Yeah.
I did build up a little audience while I was doing that, and I just didn't want any expectations. I just wanted to get back to work. But like while I was doing it, it was like, for some reason, like, I mean, I got back into the swing, no problem. It was like riding a bike again, and like having done the challenge, it was like, I got back into the swing really quickly. It was like, okay, we've been here before. This is how it's done. Great, let's go. But then it was like doing the challenge became the problem. It was like all those expectations that I didn't want, the videos, the whole thing. It became more of like a performance art kind of thing. And I got
Yeah.
really uncomfortable with like sharing stuff with people because I just wanted to do the work. And so, yeah, I made this post kind of like feeling really bummed out because I'd done the challenge when Kevin was first starting it, and I got a lot out of it, and I was a huge proponent of it, and I was like, I'm going to apply this not just to comics but to my life. I'm going to start exercising 100 days and all that, and like I did it 3 times in a row, and then we did the anthology. I did it a 4th time. It was like I was the anthology, or I was the 100-day guy. I think me, Ox, and Kevin still have like the record for the most times done. I think Kevin has me beat though. I think he did it 5 times total. So, which is appropriate. He created the thing. He should have the record. I'll let him keep it. But I was gunning for it this time, and like, I don't know, I got, day 30, day 40, somewhere around there. And I was just like, I just want to do my work. I don't want to tell you guys about it. I just want to get back to work and kind of maybe not do the challenge. And I think that's what you're talking about when I made that post, because it felt weird because I didn't want to feel like a quitter. I'm a big proponent of like, whatever you start, you should finish. And so, it was rough. It was weird, but everybody did kind of seem to agree that like, hey, if you're doing the work, then that's what matters most. And, it's not like you got anything to prove or anything, but yeah, it was interesting. I think there's a lot to that because I think you guys can relate too, because you've done the challenge. But do you feel like you need the challenge right now? Do you ever hit points where you're like, oh, maybe I should do the 100 days again? Or do you think it would still help you? Or do you feel kind of like me, where maybe it would just be more work than kind of what you would get out of it?
I think I probably need to do the challenge as far as the everything but the accountability part of it. Okay, let me take that back, because the problem right now is that I said I was going to, it's on my Trello board every day where it says 30 minutes, and I preach this stuff too,
Sure.
but I haven't put in my 30 minutes because I've been, I'm kind of, if things are kind of hectic around here with work and stuff. So I'm looking into these other avenues. So I'm diving into that stuff. So I kind of had to put that on hold because it's like, it seems like, and I've been working nonstop, you know, trying to look into like things like Amazon merch and all kinds of different things, and getting back into, you know, maybe reevaluating my Etsy shop and maybe in Redbubble and stuff like that. Just these little other income streams that alone probably don't make a lot of money, or they could. I've been following a lot of people that are doing successful stuff with it, so I'm trying to take what they do. But I've got a number of little passive income streams that bring in money. So I think if I can do more, because I got to the point where, and I'm sorry if I'm getting off on a tangent, but I got to the point where I realized that most of my eggs were in one basket. I had some other smaller things, but they're just not enough to support me. So if one of the big thing goes away, then I'm in trouble. So really what I'm trying to do now is trying to build all these different things. But long story short, so I'm doing all that stuff, and I pushed my comic book aside. But my original goal, and hopefully I'll get back to that, was to do the challenge. And maybe even every month, because I've got a bunch of other stuff going on with YouTube with my series that I'm doing. But I was thinking maybe every month I'll just kind of let people know what's going on with it or something, but not even, because last time I did it weekly, which I think was good. The daily thing I would recommend for anyone just first starting off, but we all know, once you've done it, you know, you don't really have to prove yourself as much, and that part isn't as important. So, but I still think that I need the challenge. I need to set aside the 30 minutes a day and do that, maybe even not for 100 days, but continuously.
Yeah. That was like the main thing, is like sometimes when you get out of habit, there's something about doing the challenge. And I guess it's sort of psychological, because you're committing to 100 days when it's like day 20, you know, early on. It feels like you're a lot more hesitant to slack off, because you feel like you've still got so much more to go. And so, you know, I can't mess up now. I still have all this to go. But it's like, once you get going, you kind of start to feel like, okay, I've got this. Like, I'm back in the habit. I can even take a day off here and there, and I know that I'm still going to get going, you know, immediately after. And I wonder if I were to commit to like a 30-day thing or something, if it would have the same effect, or if I would just, you know, it's like what do they call it? The Murphy's Law. The work expands to fill the time that you.
I don't think that's Murphy's Law. I think Murphy's Law it's the one where if anything can go wrong, it will.
Okay, that's Murphy. Okay, well, it's a little bit of both. What's the one about I'm not
sure.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's like that. Like, if you give yourself an hour to do a thing, it'll take that whole hour to do that thing. If you tried to do that same thing that only took you an hour, but you give yourself a week, it's going to take the whole week. I wonder if that applies to the 100 days, where if you give yourself the 100 days, it's going to take that 100 days for it to sink in and for it to have that effect, or if you could do it in a shorter amount of time. But I love the challenge, and I agree with what you said about if you're really, and Corey had said something in the chat too about if you don't need to build the habits, then you may not need it. I totally agree. I feel like if you do need to build those habits, the 100 days is perfect, and sticking to the rules as closely as possible is probably the best thing for you to do, because it's grueling. It kind of sucks, but sometimes you need that kick in the pants of like, this is hard. This is not easy. If you can get through this, then you'll be able to do a normal person's kind of way of working every day, where you get your weekends or whatever off, and you don't have to kill yourself doing it. But sometimes you need that trial through fire to come out the other end, that different person that you're trying to be. You know, if you try to take it too easy on yourself early on, you might not get that full effect.
So it to me, this is really interesting, because like, to me, when you posted that, you know, which you will pretty much describe what you wrote, you know, but it instantly kind of rang true to me, because I like the hundreds community. I like the challenge. I like doing it, but I do find that it takes more time to do the challenge than to do the art for the challenge. And so to me, like, that became kind of problematic, where I'd find myself editing videos at times where I would usually, prior to taking on the 100 days, where I had already built a habit and I could have gotten 30 more minutes done.
Yeah.
And like, so to me, like, and I see this too. So it's interesting. I feel like the community, the art community online is kind of split. I think challenges are good, you know, like doing Inktober, doing all these things, it can be really good, but it can also be a really big distraction.
Oh yeah.
From finishing or accomplishing the thing you actually are in art to do in the first place.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. Yeah, you got to be really careful with what challenges you're doing and why. Like, if you're, I mean, and it really depends on the person. Like, if your goal is to be a comic artist and to be making comics, then, you know, or anything for that matter. It doesn't have to be comics, but just for an example, we'll say comic artist, and, you know, Inktober rolls around, and that's great. Inktober, fantastic. But, like, do you need to be working on your inking, or are you already inking regularly? You know, like, can you fit that into trying to get your pages out, or is that going to be like, oh, now you're making little characters and stuff and spending like maybe 30 minutes to an hour on a drawing that's not going towards your comic? It's more of like, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's more of a recreational activity. And so you got to think about those kinds of things, because, you know, I think the biggest thing that trips a lot of people up is the whole idea of like, you know, treating your hobby like a job. You know, if you're really serious about it and you really want to finish it, you kind of have to treat it like a job. You still have to love it, and you still have to, you know, do it for all the right reasons or whatever people say. But at the same time, you have to kind of treat it like a job. And when you have a job, you got to show up at the same time every day. That's kind of what the 100 days teaches you, right? You have to make that time every day. You have to clock in every day, and you have to do the work. If the challenges that you're doing are taking up that time, then I think it's a problem. That's probably not something you should be doing.
Yeah, and I think there's also like, it's funny because I'm a huge proponent of like personal accountability. I mean, you know, I do that. That's part of what Artcasters functions as for Scott and I. That's also like, that's the whole crux of like what Corey and Scott and I are doing with the 48-hour art check. We're kind of like, it's almost like having a gym buddy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Which
is like,
awesome.
How many reps did you do? You know? And you need that if you want to kind of stay at art. As much as I'm a fan of accountability, though, there is a line with it where there's also like, for instance, I will not get much writing done on a 48-hour art check session or during Artcasters. Like, I'm not going to get writing done.
No.
I'm not going to get a ton of high concept work done. I might get a lot of the execution of it. Like right now I'm inking. Very doable, right? I have my tight pencils. I'm light boxing them and inking over them, and that's work I could do. And actually, I might even do better conversing with people, because I'll just kind of forget time and get more done than if I were just sitting here. But there's a line where you know, and you brought this up as something kind of tied into the idea of challenges, the idea of like personal and private art time versus like public art time. Yeah. And there is something to be said for like the ability to, you know, sit and think and really craft. And I do think sometimes like overt distraction can kind of feel like accomplishment, where it could all actually not be moving at all. And I think that's one of the worries I would have, like, regarding like those challenges sometimes. And I'm not saying all the time. And generally with the 100s, people usually use their own projects to kickstart. So it tends to not be the case. But I do think sometimes people can like pick up Inktober because they're feeling bad that they haven't worked on their graphic novel or their comic, or they're, you know, wanting to get into animation and they're feeling like they haven't really worked on their portfolio. So like they accomplish it and gives them a sense of accomplishment. But at the end of the day, some of it is just like kind of like doodling in a sketchbook, which can be beneficial, but it can also be like a real false start that doesn't get you any closer to the map that you had in your head when you started art.
Yeah.
Um,
I totally agree with that. I've done
Yeah.
Inktober a few times too, and that false start is a perfect way to put it, depending on your situation, of course. But a lot of times, yeah, I'm a big proponent of like, however you can get in, you should get in. And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is like, if you're trying to make your comic and you're just stuck, you're just frozen, feet in the concrete, you're not going anywhere, then try anything. Sure, go for it.
Yeah.
But I do think, just based on my little bit of experience trying to do this stuff, that the better thing to do is to eat your frogs. Like Kevin used to say, eat
Yeah.
your frogs. The thing that's causing you the most trouble that you want to be doing but you're not, you just got to do that thing. So maybe instead of doing a bunch of random characters for Inktober, you make a point to like do something to do with your comic for Inktober, and not just something. Try and do it productively. This actually ties loosely into something that came up in a private art group that I'm in. I think I'm not sure if it was Marsh's group or if it was the Hundreds group. It was one of the Discord groups. But anyways, somebody was talking about world building and how, and it was exactly the same problem that he was having, was this false start kind of thing where he loved world building. He had a limited time to work on his comic, and after the whole day was done and he was de-stressing, sometimes the only thing that he could think to do was to just doodle in his sketchbook. And the way he would try to focus his energy was to think about his comic, and he figured, well, I'll do some comic concept stuff for like my characters and whatever. I'll do some generic world building.
Yeah.
And he felt like he wasn't making any progress, and he was asking like, is this just procrastinating? Is this just wasting time? That kind of thing. And so I'll wrap this back around to Inktober and other challenges. The advice that I gave to him was like, because I do the same. I love world building. I love concept art. I mean, anybody that's followed me, especially kind of recently, like we had a 4-page comic to do for the anthology, and I think I did about 16 pages of concept art just because I like to. But what I try to do is make a list. So, okay, sure, yeah, world building, concept art, doodling, all that's part of making your comic, but like make it objective, make a finite list. So if you're going to doodle, you have a little category you can doodle in. So like I got, 6 characters. All right, pick one and doodle specifically about that. And then maybe at the end of that 30 minutes or an hour, you got something that you can use, rather than just, I'm just going to think about my comic and doodle a little bit. I mean, that's fine too, but if you really don't have a lot of time and you have that short little bit that you're working with, it's best to stay focused. And I feel like it's the same with challenges. So if you're going to do Inktober, but maybe specifically do it to develop your inking style that you're going to use for your book. Are you going to do cross hatching? Are you going to do single hatch or double hatch? Or are you going to do a brush? Or are you going to do a quill? Use Inktober for that. Use Inktober to experiment, to find how you're going to make your comic look, or to do some nicely illustrated little pieces that you're going to put in the back end or something. Like, figure out what you're going to do for it, but don't do like the stupid, draw a picture with your foot challenge. That's not going to help you. Don't do the only using 2 markers challenge. That's not going to help you. Like, if you're just doing silly stuff, just do silly stuff. Then I feel like those are more time wasters. But, the same goes for like the 100 days of comics. If you're going to do that, just do it and use the time to force yourself 30 minutes a day just to even think about how to like structure that goal of yours and turn it into something that you can make a list and check things off of. I feel like that's worked best for me. That's when I've seen the most progress, is when I'm like, all right, this is specifically what you're trying to do. You're not just doodling and wasting time. And
yeah, I mean, like, so like I think about it like, there's like, okay, so there are people who play in bands, right? And they'll meet up and they'll jam.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super fun to jam if you play music. It's fun to just kind of riff and just flow with like whatever's happening at the moment. But there's different kinds of ways of jamming, right? One is just kind of blindly just kind of going wherever. Another is like discovering stuff, kind of when you discover it, like highlighting it, trying to kind of single it out, trying to craft it, and then bring it into a song, right? like, or to get to a different part of a song or something like that. So it's like a trial and error way of arriving at a destination.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another style that's no destination, and that's some of my least favorite kind of music in the world. You know, and it's partially because like my mentality when I approach music, when I approach art, when I approach anything is like I tend to have the idea that I want an end product.
Mm-hmm.
And not like a commoditized product, but just I want something at the end that I can show. And I do like feel like there's a lot of friends and people I've known who kind of spend a lot of time riffing and little time like crafting songs or making albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like that's kind of where it's. I think it's a hard. I think like if I were going to take on a challenge, and I think everyone should have this, like what you might want to think before going into a challenge, like an art challenge kind of thing, is like, what is my intention in doing this? Mm-hmm. Like what is the thing I'm trying to gain from doing this? If you don't have a solidly good answer for it, then maybe limit the time. Like maybe your answer is just like, I just want to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So limit the time like you would with any fun, right? Like if you're a serious artist, you know, like art is fun anyway. But if you're kind of aiming to kind of make this like your job or like to make something, you know, it's like you kind of got to limit that. Just like you limit watching TV or limit watching, you know, just consumption, right? Because it's kind of fulfilling the same angle. Now, if like Mike was just describing, it's like, I really don't know how to ink. So the objective of this is to try as many inking styles as I can. That's really productive.
Yeah.
But then that'll also inform how you do it, right? Because while you're doing it, you'll be like, oh, when I move this style of inking tool this way, it does this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And kind of recording that a little bit so you can repeat those movements, you know?
Yeah.
But it is interesting to me, like the split, because there's a lot, it's just a tough thing. And I think some people, I've talked about it, but it's like they'll end up in the Silmarillion trap where not everyone's J.R.R. Tolkien, but there's a whole ton of people who are writing a Silmarillion that'll never have anything, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a hard thing, but it was interesting because when you made that post, it really did ring true for me, where it's like I might very well do the 100 days again. Mm-hmm. I love the community. I like the challenge of it. It is super challenging and it's super hard. But at this point, like I definitely felt, and at the point that you had posted that, I do relate to that, like where I feel like I'm kind of in a zone where I'm doing art every day. Mm-hmm. And I can't add too much to it beyond just getting the work done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that'll take away from it. And that's where I think when you posted, I was like, well, if it's going to take away from what you're doing, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a good zone and you're getting it done, you know, why, you know, I don't know.
Totally.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, something else that was kind of, I just remembered because it's been a little while, but another aspect of doing the challenge now, kind of looking back on the times that I'd done it before, and just maybe my mindset has changed too, just about how I do my work. But there's something about doing specifically the 100 Days Making Comics where you really feel like you have to show up every day with something to share, like you have finished something, especially visually, because you're doing videos most of the time, and you could talk about writing till you're blue in the face. But I mean, it feels weird showing up saying I'm making a comic, but I have no visuals to share with you. There's just something about that doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well with me. And I see most people get uncomfortable talking about that when they're doing the challenge. And I've noticed that a lot of people assume that the point of the challenge is to finish a comic in the 100 days, or to, have some finite goal to finish in 100 days. And it's really, I mean, you could, it's a weird amount of time if you really think about the time span that it exists in. It is a strange amount of time to plan for, because you got it's like, is it 4 months, or it's like barely 4 months, or 4 months and a couple days? It's an odd amount of time to try to plan around. But the thing that was getting to me this last time around was I felt like I was rushing something that I just wanted to let simmer and see where it went. And it doesn't mean that I wanted to just, work on this thing indefinitely, but it also wasn't something that I wanted to rush. And sometimes when you're doing a challenge, it can make you want to rush. Like even in Inktober, you're supposed to finish a thing every single day. Well, I mean, what if it's not? What if you need more time to finish it? What if you want to do? What if what you need isn't to be doing stuff quickly, but to be slowing down? And I ran into that. And I know this isn't the same for everybody, so I'm not throwing this out as a blanket statement. I'm just saying for most of us, I think there are points where you got to speed up and there's points where you got to slow down. And if you're really trying to learn something, sometimes that's the time when you got to slow down. And I found that it did me a world of good this year, or I should say not this year, but towards the end of last year. I had a bunch of commissions that I had to do, and I had to get them done at like a certain time. Obviously, I had to get them done before before Christmas. I had to finish them and get them shipped and delivered before Christmas. And you would think that I'd want to like rush those things, but I also had a portfolio review that was coming up that I really wanted to like use these pieces for. And so I actually slowed down, and by slowing down, I did them faster, which is a weird thing to even think about, but it was like I took that pressure off, and I told myself, you can take as long as you need to do these. You have a deadline, but don't worry about it. You got plenty of time. Just slow down, relax, take whatever time you need. And when I did that, I was paying attention to what I was doing more, and it was like everything that I had been studying and learning the last few years was like actually coming out onto the page. It was like, oh, I have been learning stuff. I've just been moving too fast and trying to do too much too quickly. I needed to just pull back. And so I think you got to really look at like where you're at in your life and where you're at on your journey before you do some of these challenges too, because maybe you're not at a point where doing a finished thing every day is what you need to be doing, especially depending on what you're studying. Say you're studying inking and you're doing the Inktober type of thing, and you only have like a half hour a day, but you're at a point where like you're an awesome inker and your goal is you want to study Wrightson. You want to break down his Frankenstein drawings and like figure out how he did all that. You're not going to do that in a half hour. Are you crazy? You might be working on one piece for that whole month. Like, and that's just how it is. But maybe that's what you need to do, I think you got to be careful jumping on the bandwagon with some of this stuff. And it's good though. I don't want to be so negative about it. Challenges are good. It's just, you got to think about why you're doing them and make sure that you're doing the challenge for the right reason. Like you said, if it's to have fun, have fun. I'm not anti-fun by any means. There's nothing wrong with just having fun. But if you got something else on the back burner that you're going to be, your guts are going to get all twisted up about if you don't get this thing going, then that's the type of situation where you got to really think about what it is you're putting your time into. So if you're going to upset yourself because another month passed and I still didn't get this done, and I still haven't learned this, well then stop doing challenges.
And so like it's funny because you're describing something that kind of clicked for me like quite a few years back now, but it's like when I started this comic I'm now finishing, and it's like 5 or 6 years later. But it's like I had this realization because I had just finished a graphic novel where I was like, this is finished, it's passable, but I don't feel like proud of it, and I don't want to put it out. Like I didn't really feel good about it. And all those like shortcuts where I was just rushing to get it done and rushing to get it further. And I mean, I spent, there's some things I like about it, but I had this realization of like, no, I need to actually spend time with pages to make them as good as I know I can make them. And I mean, obviously not like over noodle them,
sure,
and, destroy them, but like take the time that I need to take to make it good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been doing. So even this has been frustrating because it's like an author page at the end, and it's taking like a week, and then it's going to take another week. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 weeks to finish the stupid last page, and then I got to format the book and all that, and do the covers. And I just know
that'll be awesome.
That'll be 2 weeks. That'll be 3 weeks. You know. But the thing is, yeah, I know I'm going to feel better about this book than I felt about anything I've done before.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I've put in like what I felt I should. And it was like, I think it clicked when I was like, I've been a giant fan of Chris Ware, but I remember just thinking, well, why is Chris Ware so great? And then I was like, oh, it's because like the guy just makes it good. Like he just bothers to like make it really good, like better than most people can. But still, it's like he doesn't take shortcuts. And he does smart, intentional shortcuts, but not, like designed, like he takes the time that it needs to kind of make something work.
Yeah.
He'll take the time that it needs to have a scene breathe if it needs to breathe, or, and to me, like, and then I was thinking about all the guys I admire, and I was like, oh, that's the big divide. Like for me, I was like, that's my big divide between me and them. Not that I'm there, but it's like I'm closer to being where I imagined where I'd like to be by just spending the time that I kind of all along knew I needed to do and was just trying to find ways around it.
Yeah.
That
really resonates with me too, for sure.
Yeah.
You start looking at the people that you look up to or aspire to do, work at the level that they're doing it. And I started seeing that pattern as well. That these are people that, okay, and there's arguments to be made for the other. I don't disagree with that, but you start to see that, all right, this person doesn't work as much as, say, the prolific guys that are doing a book every month or whatever, but I really enjoy what they've done when they've done it. Maybe they only have 6 big books to their name compared to the guys that got hundreds, but I don't even know the name of the guy that did hundreds. Like I love this work from this person. Wrightson's a great example of that. I mean, 100%. It was just insane. And I'm glad that he took the time that he did. He probably didn't make as much money as some of those guys did that were doing more books. And I get that. And that's probably the major argument that I've heard is like, well, if you want to make a career of this, then you got to make sacrifices and pick and choose when you're going to spend that time. But I guess it all depends on what it is that you're trying to do. For me, and I imagine for you too, like it's about the art, it's about the craft. It's not necessarily about making a job of it, or like for me personally, I'm not trying to work for major publishers or anything. I'm trying to make the best book that I can make. I don't know if that's a good career choice. Yeah. That's not what I'm concerned about right now in this moment. Maybe that will be after this book is done, and I'll reconsider and I'll go a different path. We were talking before the show started about, perhaps illustration would be a better choice if money's the goal, and I don't disagree. That's something that I've thought about. But right now, I really want this book to be awesome, and that's all that I care about. Now I'll take as much time as I need to do it. I have goals. I have deadlines that I would like to hit. But if I feel in my gut that it's not ready, then I'm okay taking more time to do it, There's a quote that's kind of been a bug in my ear for this like past year or so. It's from the guitarist from Tool, which is one of my favorite bands. But I mean, they're also a terrible example of like maybe overproducing, maybe overworking.
Especially in their latest albums, but yeah.
Oh God, but it's so good. It's so awesome. But his quote from him was, "It's not good when it's done. It's done when it's good." And I was like, "Ooh, I could dig that." So I had to print it out and stick it up on my little board here. Not that I'm trying to like go after any kind of perfection or anything, but just I'm trying to think like that a little bit more. It's sort of the opposite of finished, not perfect, which I know is like the mantra of the decade right now, and there's people that are unsubscribing for me as we speak. But yeah, I kind of like I like experimenting. I'm a person that's like, hey, we've been doing this for a while and it's working. What if we did this differently? And so I like having like a theme to my years. I had a year where I said yes to everything. I had a year where I said no to everything. They were both equally enjoyable years. It's just, took me on different paths. This year is it's not good when it's done when it's good year, which is the opposite of, finished not perfect, but we'll see. I might eat my words come 2021.
I'm glad it's good though and not perfect.
Right. Yeah. No.
If you threw perfect at the end, it would be kind of an impossible idiom,
It's a little pretentious too that you could even
yeah. But it's weird because I do kind of I like live the dichotomy you're kind of talking about, because at my day job it's like it is literally like useless for us to have perfect art because their deadlines are so tight that perfect art would literally mean we're out of business. Like
yeah.
And so like my average day, like 8 hours a day, I'm rushing and making things as good as they can be within this tiny little time frame and putting out a ton of art. What I like about this in contrast to it, and that's part of why I even took that job, was so that I didn't have to do that all day. Because I found myself when I was freelancing, doing that all day long. Like that was the thing, was just like good's better than like, not even good, just done is better than good. Because if I missed deadlines, I wouldn't be able to pay rent that month,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But now it's like I'm a big proponent of like putting yourself in a scenario where you have ways to sustain yourself so that regardless of whatever you're pursuing for money, you can still pursue art. And that's a hard thing,
Sure.
But it's like, I don't know. It depends on your objective. I do think, if people are looking for like a ton of likes on Instagram and stuff like that, and they want instant kind of growth and feedback and stuff, I think you do need frequency.
Yeah. This is true.
But I don't know. Like, is that like, that's the thing? Is that what we got into art for? I don't know. For like likes on Instagram. Like Instagram didn't even exist when I got into art.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I've been thinking of lately. Like when I went to art school, I was like, I was just screw the system. What do they know? I'm art's just from the heart. It's like whatever, man. It's whatever I put on the page, and you just got to deal with it. And like, I'm feeling a little bit of that lately, and I don't know if it's like a verge of a midlife crisis or what, but it's
we could both be in the same boat with that.
Who knows? But yeah, it's different, and it's not necessarily bad, but I do remember like there was a time when I didn't need to post to Instagram or Facebook or anything to feel fulfilled or satisfied about this art that I just made. I shared it with a small group of friends, and I did build a career out of it after college, and it was still different. I was working before, like right when Facebook was invented. That's when I got my first job in the industry. But I didn't go to Facebook to share it. It was still just a website that, maybe 2% of the population knew about and cared about. And the rest were like, what's that? Whatever. It's like a yearbook or something. But yeah, I think about that. And I think of just, I don't know. I've been getting back to that a little more. You've noticed I haven't been posting a lot. I've just been, enjoying working on my stuff and developing this story and developing these concepts. And once in a while I make a thing and I think it's a little cool and I put it out there, but I'm immediately reminded about why I'm not doing that. Cause like, there's like, I'll check back the next day, how many people liked this or whatever, or did anybody say anything? And it's like, even thinking that kind of stuff, I start questioning, why are you even doing this in the first place? Like maybe pull back, maybe just worry about this character for a moment, and I haven't even been doing the hangouts very much or even listening to very many like podcasts or art shows or anything, which I used to watch all the time. Just been listening to music and mostly music that's like kind of fitting the mood or the tone of sort of what I'm writing in the story. And that's just when I'm like, actually creating concept work or whatever. When I'm writing, it's just I put on like a playlist that's like a fireplace. It's just a fireplace crackling. That's it. So not even music. I don't know, I'm doing a weird thing that's very unconventional, but it's working for me. I feel more connected to what it is that I'm doing. But the caveat to that is I don't feel connected to my audience anymore. I don't feel connected to, the rest of the people out on social media. That's what's missing right now that I know when this book is finally done would probably be useful. It's probably going to bite me in the ass. So it's this balance. I don't know what the balance is for me right now, but I know what I need is to just keep doing what I'm doing and working on the work. Because if I don't have work, there's, the audience is waiting for nothing. So what's the building an audience for nothing? Which is fun. I'll wrap this up because I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I'll take it back around. I felt like because I was doing just a bunch of challenges that in a way I was building an audience around just doing challenges. I was doing Inktober. I did the character a day thing. I did, there was, Marsh was doing Shecember. I started doing a bunch of stuff and I never finished any of them, but it was like those little things were building this anticipation for nothing. Like it wasn't amounting to anything. I wasn't building up to like, oh, I did all this stuff and now I'm going to release a book of it. Like it was just doing art for the sake of art, which is fine. But I also feel like I built a very scattered audience because of it too. And now I've got this book that's very clearly defined. And I don't know if the audience that I have now is the audience for that book. Like I'll have to see, when the time comes, but you could run into that too, I guess, if you don't have, focus enough to apply the challenges that you're doing to the project that you're doing. So we'll see.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's pretty interesting. What do you think, Scott? What do you think about this this talk of challenges and like potential like kind of like focusing, stepping back to focus, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it pretty well, but I mean, it's just I think in the beginning it's helpful. I think once you've done that a few times, then you don't have as much to prove. And what's a challenge really? I mean, a challenge could be, it doesn't have to be like Mike talked about doing his thing sort of in private. It could be something to yourself. It doesn't have to be something out in the public. It doesn't have to, I mean, it can just be a goal that you set for yourself. I mean, I do this all the time. I don't necessarily call them challenges. So I don't know, but one of the things I kind of just wanted to chime in a little bit when Mike was talking about, he was talking about losing subscribers because some of the way he does things. I think Mike and I are very different in the way we approach comics. Like if you watch my comic, Making Comics 101, one of the first things I say is just, especially if anyone has trouble starting or whatever, is just kind of, it's more of a dive-in thing. Do it as simply as possible. It's just even a 4-page comic. So I constantly preach that stuff. Mike definitely goes a different route, but I'm fascinated by the way he does things. And there's people out there that can do that. This crazy stuff on their first. Not this is Mike's first comic, but they these ambitious projects, but they're few and far between. So I just kind of like to stay away from that. But Mike's process is just so interesting to me. It does go to show that different people approach different things, and I don't know. For me, it seems like for just watching Mike that his process seems like, and there's so much to it. It's almost like that's almost as interesting as like even having that finished piece or whatever, all everything that goes into it, you know. So I don't know, but it is kind of cool to see different people approach things in different ways. But it also, everyone's different and people are wired differently. So, you know, and somehow sometimes it makes me kind of question the advice that I give, but I always kind of preface everything that, you know, season to taste, but you know,
Sure.
and what works for me may not work for you, but I don't know if I would necessarily go back on kind of what I'm talking about, because I mean the biggest problem I find with a lot of comic artists is just getting started, and so, you know, 9 times out of 10 my advice is going to be just keep it simple, and then, you know, gradually each time you complete a small project, then expand and everything like that. So, you know, and I don't know, I mean, Mike's been doing this for a while, so maybe he's kind of got all that under his belt where he's done all those smaller projects, and he has done, you know, and you have done the, you know, the you know, the anthology stories and stuff like that. So you've done that. So now you're kind of moving into your bigger thing, and it goes for Josh too. I mean, he's got this. I mean, he's the amount of time he's put in his book, and now it's finally coming to a head, and he's getting ready to put it out there. I mean, there's no doubt that his book is going to be a masterpiece. I mean, I'm looking at it, and when Mike gets his book done, it's going to be too. Yeah, and when Mike gets his done, it's going to be too. But, you know, I mean, it's in some ways I'm jealous of that, but in other ways it's just like I don't know if I can necessarily work like that. So I don't know. You know, it's interesting.
So I think you touched on something kind of important though that I think I really want to underscore, which is like it's not like this is not my first graphic novel.
Right.
And were I to spend this much time on my first graphic novel, I might actually be heading to a dead end.
Yeah.
So the fact that my first graphic novel, I thought I was spending a lot of time on, I wasn't. I mean, compared to what I should have been. And there were years put into that one too, just not 5 or 6 years, you know? And what's interesting is that process, I learned a ton that enabled me to do pages that if I took time with would be pretty good. Had I not had that kind of experience of like doing a ton of comics that are fast and loose and quick and dirty and like all over the board, like in style, yeah, you know, you could end up courting disaster, because if you're trying to get really good but you don't know how to use a brush, right? This ties into like the Inktober thing we were talking about, right? Like if you want to do like beautiful brush work, you know, you do need to spend a lot of time using a brush or using a pen and like getting the hang of that. If you want to do really good type, you have to start playing with type and doing a bunch of different typography and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of think that, Scott, I think the advice you're giving, especially for like somebody new to comics, that's 100% true.
Oh,
like,
totally.
And I do think there's this delusion out there where people feel like, and I know I was there. Like I remember feeling like I'm a cartoonist and stuff before I ever did like a finished comic. And I'd be like, yeah, I draw comic books. And it's like, I had this reality check one time where I was just like, well, how can I call myself a comic book artist if I've never done a comic? Yeah. Like, I just got to accept I'm not going to be a comic artist till I publish a comic, you know? So I mean, that would be the best advice ever, is just like do a project, do a short comic, do the 100 days challenge, take a challenge, do that kind of stuff. But if that's the loop you're in and that's all you do, then, you know, that might work for some, but for some, I think it's really appropriate to be like, yeah, I don't know if the challenge is what I need to do right now. I might, like Mike, you were describing, might need to slow down. Yeah. Do a crazy page, do a Bernie Wrightson, you know?
Yeah. Anything. You know, to piggyback onto that and kind of, you know, I agree with everything that you were saying, Scott, because even before I did, the 100 Days of Making Comics, I'd already been making comics for years. It's just like a thing that I do. I don't think any of them were special or anything worth sharing at all, because it was just me screwing around. It wasn't until I started doing the 100 days that I thought I might take it a little bit more seriously. But comics were just a part of my language. Like when I was going to college, a lot of people that went to college with me remember this. The teachers had like the whiteboards and stuff in the room. And if I got there early enough before the board was covered, I would always draw a little comic on the board every day. And some people that I went to school with used to look forward to being in classes that were after classes that I took, because the teachers would usually leave it up there. And I just learned a couple of years ago that one of my friends had a math class in one of the rooms, and the teacher would not erase it. She would actually work on the opposite side of the board because she wanted to save it for the next class. So anyways, that's just a little thing, but that's a lot of practice of just the act of making comics. I made a bunch of little comics when I was a kid. I used to sell them on the playground. And all these things kind of added up to this point in my life where I thought, okay, let's start making comics. If I were to like give somebody advice that we're going to just start making comics like tomorrow, I would say, practice drawing, maybe work on like a little 1-page thing, or, work on going from 1 page to 2 pages and things like that. Cause it's a big difference to go from doing like a little strip or even a little cartoon on a whiteboard, even if it's got panels, to doing even something with 2 pages, or to do a scene that goes from 1 page to 4 pages, or to do an arc that comes back after 8 pages, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I don't disagree at all. I think doing a long thing is the worst thing that you could do. I tried to do that in college and completely failed. I've got pages and pages and pages of something that makes no sense at all. I was totally not ready. It was not drawn that well either. I thought I was a little bit better at it than I was. It's horrible. And it was heartbreaking too, because I got pretty deep into it before I realized that it was a big mistake to do it. And then look, so many years passed before I even picked it up again. And, it was like, if I'd have just slowed down and done something smaller, maybe I wouldn't have stopped. And maybe life would have been different. I don't like looking back and saying, well, if I would have done something differently, I didn't. But, I think about someone maybe like me at that time. And if I could help them, I would say, don't do the big thing, work up in increments. Even what I'm doing now with this book is a little crazy, but I feel like the cumulative work that I've done to this point, I feel confident enough to give it a shot. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I hope it turns out good, but I don't know. It feels right. Corey was, we were talking in the hundreds group a little, like a day or two ago, about, it was one of our daily topics. And I had brought up this idea of like having a gut feeling that this is what needs to be done right now. And that's kind of what I feel about this right now. It's a series of smaller comics that I'm going to stick together into one bigger story. So it feels like a little more digestible for me right now. It's not quite the full graphic novel treatment, but added up page wise, it might be, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Scott. The small things are the best things, and do as many of them as possible. I used to keep a little sketchbook that was just nonsense comics, just to practice comics. How would I make a page using long panels? How would I make a page, using wide panels, and then doing the broken panel or broken borders and all that stuff, like just random weird little exercises. Just, I don't know. Baby steps, little things, and they all add up eventually.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Although I will say it's funny because, like, even if you're not taking a challenge, I will throw out a challenge for any cartoonist out there, which is make a finished comic or make a graphic novel. Do that as a challenge. Like, try that over the hundreds. Try seriously. Like, if you've do the hundreds first. See if you're cut out for it, right? So if you can't make the hundreds, you're not going to make a comic. I'm just saying, if you can't do 100 days, like 30 minutes, which we've tallied up, and it ends up being what, like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time at all if you just do the 30 minutes.
Yeah. So build that habit, right? Do that. But I really would throw down like the idea of a challenge that's been around for a long time, which is finish a book. Like whether it's a short book or a big book, finish a book. Start it, finish it, whether it's good or bad, finish it. And I think the process of doing that, you're going to get better as a cartoonist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott's advice is great. Like start with the 2-pager, finish that, up it to 3, keep going. And those videos are excellent, by the way. They're great. So
it's almost better if it's bad. I think I don't know. I'm a big proponent of humbling yourself. I don't think ego can really do some damage to a person and affect your ability to finish things and be your best person. And so I feel like even failing is a good step. It's a good thing to do and to get out of the way as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, and to get comfortable with, because it'll repeat. I mean, occasionally, not everything's going to be a win.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So
many failures until I should knock on wood. It feels like things are going good finally. So I'm going to stick with that and hope for the best. But
well, I think it's cool that you're fighting the fight, and I think it's an interesting thing to consider because I don't think it's for like what you're doing. I don't think it's for everyone. But I think it's cool that you have kind of like chosen to do that because you felt it was needed for the art. And to me, like I think that's like there's this thing that happens with commercial artists where it's like we forget we're artists sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, but we're artists, so it's like you got to remember like artists, like there's a long history, and I don't like it. I mean, I'm not saying we all have to be starving artists, but there's a long history of like starving, struggling artists who really dedicate themselves to their craft. And not all of the artists throughout history were starving or struggling. A lot of them made a decent living, doing their art.
Right.
But my point is, if you want to get into doing art, like there's going to be a bit of struggle to it.
Oh, definitely.
And in general, like there's going to be times where like for the art, you might have to do things that, were you to be in a different career path, you wouldn't have to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying the other day, this is not related to comics, but it's all kind of part of the art journey. When I was working in film, especially early on, sometimes just to have the gig and be able to do the gig, I would have to stay with other people, either just random members of the crew that lived close, or I had a good buddy that lived in the city that was like closer to some of the studios that we would work at, or in rare cases, but absolute batshit insane cases, we would sleep on the set. We would, either pitch a tent or, fold up some ladders and put some flats on them for a little bit of, to create more of a enclosed space so we could be warmer. Like just weird stuff. And talk about compromises too. Just, finish not perfect is the mantra in the film industry. You cannot take any time. You're hardly ever given enough time to physically do the thing you're being asked to do. You have to come up with insane, crazy ways to make glue dry faster that can't chemically dry faster. Like it's just wild. But you got to do what you got to do to get where it is that you're trying to go. And sometimes it takes you in directions that you're not expecting. Sometimes you have to do things that, like you said, you don't necessarily want to do or expected that you would have to, but it's all part of the journey and it all adds up eventually. I didn't think that anything that I was doing in film would, contribute to what I'm doing in games, but I've found some weird instances where it has. I wasn't behind the camera or anything. I was just an art guy, but I did a lot of concept stuff. I did a lot of like fashion design stuff and set design and all that. And that's actually come up. That's actually proven to be useful. So a lot of the like concept stuff that I do, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from stuff like that. So You never know what other jobs you might take that might not be the ideal thing or what you really want to do, but maybe they help you somewhere down the line. Maybe you learn some little skill that applies later, you know?
No, totally. I mean, okay, so like there's some weird things that came up that as like advantages the second I became an art director, and like a bunch of them were like the first jobs I ever had, like doing customer service in a line with like people at a movie theater and at a gas station. Like some of the worst customers you'll ever have because they're in a rush, they're grumpy, they kind of don't view you as a human being. You're just a tool to get them to what they need. And learning how to mediate situations and kind of like deal with people who are angry and kind of help them cool down and like kind of take control of a room. Like, you know, like you're at a gas station at those times. Back in those days, it was just one person. So it's like a lot of it's just illusion. So you just you're pretty much coaxing people not to steal stuff.
Sure.
But some of those skills come in handy with my art direction gig because you have to translating stuff to people who don't understand art and try to help them understand it. And like, so it's weird, but it's like a lot of weird, odd jobs I worked younger have been just as valuable for like my professional growth.
Totally.
As like any art job, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Even like part-time jobs, even things that seemingly have nothing to do. Like you said, customer service is a huge one. Sales. Oh, yeah. I did sales for a few different things that helps me now just in communication, you know, not necessarily being a salesman, but being comfortable talking to other people about buying things. That's something that I was surprised and I'm still surprised when I see that some people aren't comfortable doing that. And that comes natural to me now because of having to work at JCPenney and sell watches I could care less about, like, or working at a call center and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like you just got to take whatever situation you're in and make the most of it and think about how it might apply later. There's a lot of people that get down about having to have a day job. I've never been down when I've had to have a day job. It does suck because you'd rather not, but there's always something that's good about it. Either the fact that you're making money, that's way better than not, or the interaction with people. That's something that I took for granted when I was regularly working, just regular day jobs, not art career kind of jobs or anything, was just how much more in touch you get with just normal people, just having a normal job, you know? That's something that I tend to not get as much since I started doing more creative jobs. And I don't know, there's something good about everything. You just got to make your situation work for you. And it's a little pessimistic kind of view, but everything is temporary anyways. So
yeah, no, I don't think that's super, but that can actually be a very relieving thought, you know? I also think like, you know, there's also like this myth, I think, that a lot of people have that like once they get paid to do things creatively, like they're going to be full of satisfaction and be able to like, you know, because they get to draw and I, you know, there are a lot of things that are similar about a creative job as any other job. And so, like I said, I think it's important for creatives to like be pursuing something beyond just the commerce thing.
Yeah.
Because the commerce thing you can get as an artist, and it's feasible and it's not a crazy goal. Not everybody gets to. There's a billion people who are way more talented than I am who don't make a living as creatives. But, you know, it's feasible. It's doable. I know people who do, you know. But like it's not going to be the answer to all of, you know, the problems of like a creative who like might have to be doing customer service right now. You might find that there's actually a lot more in common with the two.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that's interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes, you know, that's actually a better situation. One of my friends, Teresa, you've had her on the show before. She she's living her dream. She works part-time as a teacher. She used to work full-time. She works part-time as a teacher, and it allows her enough money to support herself, and it gives her enough time to work on her comic. And she's always a great person to go to for perspective, because in her opinion, that's enough. Like she has, that is scalable for her. She's good with that right now. Like that's, if she really, if the comic thing really took off, then she could pull back on the job. But if it didn't, she still has the job. And like, that's a great situation. That's an ideal situation, something like that. So it doesn't, you don't always like the dream, the big dream, the pie in the sky dream is to just do whatever we want all the time, all day, every day, which is very unlikely that any of us are ever going to achieve that. Even the big guys don't really achieve that if you really look at their lives and what they have to do to maintain that and make that work. But it's finding that balance and finding comfort in what you do have and what you can make work, and I think that's something that, to kind of pull it back around to the challenge, that's something that the 100 days sort of helps with, is like, it forces you to carve out that 30 minutes. And then you start seeing all these places where you're wasting time, or you could be making more time, and or making different use of your time. Like I know there's some people that maybe they're not in the chat right now, but I know they watch the Artcasters, and I know they're in the hundreds, but they do their comic work with their kids. Like their kids are always around when they're doing their comic work. They're not trying to wait until they go to sleep. They're not trying to, work around the family. They're incorporating the family, making the family part of it. And like, I thought that was really cool. I thought, that's a way you're making your situation work. You're adapting, but you're making it so that you're not, I don't know exactly how to phrase what I'm trying to say, but a lot of people look at their situation as very, like in a very negative light. Like if only I could change this, this, and this, then I would have the perfect situation. And once I had the perfect situation, well, then I could finish my comic. But nobody ever does. You just don't. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like the caveat too is like, you might find that, like I said, it may not be quite as great as you think, and then you're missing out on all those beautiful moments in the process of arriving there.
Yeah.
I hear that of like a lot of comedians that I like listen to podcasts of will really kind of lament the days where they had to kind of work for it and try because they've blown up, and they actually miss those days where they were like struggling and trying to make it work, because they had a lot of fun and a lot of challenge and a lot of growth. And so it's like, I think that's another thing is like, even if you are going to arrive at that like plateau or whatever, don't forget like how cool it is to be on the path there,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it's just an awesome thing to be able to do this stuff. And so if you're able to like, and I think that's the beauty of the hundreds too, is like the hundreds really shows you that it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think also shows a lot of people who think they work hard on comics that they're not working hard on comics. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of people who go in being like, yeah, I work hard on comics. And then when they have to do a daily schedule, it's like, oh, wow, I really have never done that before.
Yeah. That was me. Like when I first came into it, it was like I wasn't even thinking like, oh, I'm going to do this as a career. I already was working in film. I was working on a stop motion thing at the time that ended up, that was the end. That I didn't know at the time, but that was the beginning of the end for me. But the comics thing was like, I'd really been wanting to do it. And I started working on my own comic in my own free time for a little while. And then all of a sudden I got all these gigs back to back to back. And I just totally put it off. But I was just starting to dive in. And when I came back to it, I was thinking, oh, great, I'm just going to do this on the side, 30 minutes at a time out of the day. It'll be a nice break from everything else that I got going on. And it was like, it was like a earth-shattering experience to just see how much real actual work it was going to take to make a legit comic. Not one of my whiteboard things, not one of my practice pages, not one of like, my quick little comics just screwing around or whatever, but like, let's try to actually make something with a story. Let's try to actually put something together for real. That was hard. I didn't realize how much work was going to go into that. And once I did, it completely changed everything for me. I mean, even mid-challenge, like during that first challenge, I totally changed things up for myself. And I started putting a lot more emphasis on study, a lot more emphasis on research. I started looking into like, what are the real, what do people who have actually done this do? How do they... And I learned, like I spent my whole challenge just learning and I like, how do I actually do this the right way? Because the way that I'm doing is very difficult and it's going to take forever. But yeah, it was awesome though, because it wasn't until then that I really, now I feel like I get it. I have a much better grasp, but this is also 5 years later, it's crazy to think that was 5 years ago, but
it goes quick, right?
It really does. I feel like in a lot of ways I was starting over at that time. And yeah, it's so much work. So doing the challenge is awesome because it forces you to do all that work in little chunks. Doing the 100 days challenge, I mean, not the draw a picture with your foot using 2 markers. That one, I don't know about that one. Or like there's that one, it's like you draw something for 30 minutes and then you draw it for 15 and then 10 and then 5 seconds. It's like, what, we all know the last one's going to be crap. Like we all know that just makes logical sense. Do you have to go through the whole challenge to figure that out? I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So like, I guess I think we're all pretty much in agreement about it, So just out of curiosity, so how is it coming with Sisyphean Complex and
man.
Are you glad, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but are you glad you've kind of made that choice to pull back a little bit? Yeah. So
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah? I'm having a blast, and recently I've been able to dive in even more again because I'm done with all my commissions. I finally finished my last one. Well, I think it was this past week. My weeks are weird, so my weekends are actually Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So my time frame is off, but I think I finished my last commission last week. But anyways, yeah, writing is going incredible. I did a bunch of rewrites recently. Speaking of simplification, that was kind of like, that's the point that I'm at now. I'm taking all my notes. I have like 100 and something pages of just notes, just from like my notebooks and my dictations and stuff, because this has been like a work in progress for the last 2 years, most of which was during the time when my hand was all messed up and I was doing mostly writing and stuff and also working my day job. Yeah, it's going awesome. Concepts are going good. Writing is going good. I've got actual scripts in hand now. I wouldn't say they're final and like ready for me to start drawing, but it's important to like get something out and even if it sucks, just this is issue 2. This is what we got right now.
Yeah.
It might not be what issue 2 ends up being, but it is what it is. But no, I have at least 5 issues done now. I say at least because today was an interesting day. I haven't really broken it down to see page wise what I've done today in terms of a script, but made some great progress today. This is one of my favorite things that I've ever worked on. I think it is the favorite thing I've ever worked on. It's emotional, it's visceral, it deals with just so much that I think is important just to me personally, but also I think to anybody. It's a very relatable story. I think each character deals with something that I think everyone deals with in some way. It's a very allegorical kind of story in that everybody is sort of like a symbol of something. I'm not trying to beat anybody over the head with it. It's one of those things that if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's still going to be a weird freaking story because that's what I do. That's what I like. I like things that are just bizarre. But if you want to take the time to look at little bit under the surface, there's something to pull from it. And I could talk about it all day. I'm absolutely in love with the story. Recently, I've kind of finally started to narrow in on how I'm going to be doing the pages. I still haven't settled on an inking style. I have a little exercise that I'm going to do for myself. Speaking of challenges and Inktober type stuff, I'm actually I have like a 5-page sample script that I've pulled from my issue 0. It's like an action sequence mixed with there's a scene in like a hotel. You know how some hotels, they have like a bar or a restaurant in the lobby area, and then you go up to the hotel. So it's a scene that starts in that hotel area and then goes up into the hotel and then ends on a rooftop. So I thought it was a good scene for some practice because they're very different backgrounds. There's a lot of transition going on, and it's just 3 very different kind of tones and mood and actions going on. So I'm going to be doing my roughs and my pencils digitally because that's how I want to do this. And then I'm going to be printing that out and attempting to finalize the page in 3 different ways. I'm going to do it 100% digital, I'm going to do it hybrid, and then I'm going to do it one more time completely traditional. It sounds insane, but this is a long freaking project. I'm looking at roughly like 12 issues. I want to make sure I'm comfortable with the way I'm choosing to do this before I start doing it. The last thing I want to do is get, 5, 10, 15 pages in and then decide I hate the way that I'm working and then change the whole style of the book. So I thought this little 5-page exercise is going to be a good thing for me to do. And if all goes well, it shouldn't take too long to do it. It's just going to be, it'll be a little bit repetitive, but I'm hoping by the time I get done with that, though, I will see what works best for me. And once I see that, I'm really close to starting to make pages. I'm not committed to, doing that just yet. I have a timeline, and right now my timeline is, right now what I'm focused on is finish scripts, at least enough to get me going for, the rest of the year. And then, and concepts. I want the stuff that I need to draw. I want to know what I'm drawing. I want this stuff developed and clear and succinct. I'm going to get into a lot more of it kind of soon, probably on Patreon, just because that's like the best place to dump that kind of stuff. I can't see really getting into it on Instagram, but maybe on my website too. I'm not 100% sure where it's going to go, but I want to get into like the design aesthetics that I'm going for. I'm approaching this the way that I used to approach doing production design for film. So I'm treating it as though I just got hired. I have this and this and this to do. And so I'm like, scouting location. I'm looking at like old art movements and fashion design and interior design and all these things and trying to combine them into what I would call a lookbook. When I was working in film, or a style guide. It's basically like a short book that's like, you got swatches, you got some reference material, and then you got your own material that you've, created from this stuff. I'm looking to create something like that for myself so that I have some designs and I have some very clear idea of the aesthetic that I'm going for, but I haven't designed everything. But it's a nice little reference sheet that like, okay, I got to draw a vehicle in this panel. Let's look at the book, So hopefully within the next few months, that's the goal. This is January, so January, February, March. By March, I hope to have this style guide pretty well done, and at least my first 2 or 3 scripts done, like done, ready to draw done. So
nice.
Yeah. My goal, at the very least, I hope to get 2 issues out this year. That's my plan. Or done, I should say. I don't know if people are going to read them, but done. Still haven't decided 100% how I'm releasing this yet. If I'm going to do it online or just wait till the whole thing's done, I really don't know. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm loving this. I'm working on a little page right now. But yeah. It's going to be cool. I think it's going to be surprising. I think when people see it, if all goes well, it should push some buttons but it should be the kind of thing that if you've read it, you understand why it's pushed your buttons, and it's kind of supposed to. And
Yeah.
so I'm nervous about it. This is why I haven't been sharing much, because I want to just get it out there, and it's at least to a point where people could experience it and start to understand it. Because the last thing I want is for people to get the wrong impression and write it off immediately. But we'll see. We'll see if I could actually accomplish what I'm trying to do.
It sounds awesome, and it's actually cool because I can kind of tell that you're passionate about it, and that I think you must have made the right call.
I think so. I think so. I know. I tend to know when to make at least okay decisions for myself when the rest of my family gets excited and they're like, "Oh yeah, cool, you're doing that thing, good."
Man, that's awesome.
You see, they'll be the first to let me know when I'm not doing something they think I should be doing.
I can see that. Sweet. All right. Well, so how are we doing? We're at like an hour and 25 minutes. Scott, I feel bad. I feel like we all talked.
No, that's all right. I was actually trying to get some work done. So
Love it.
That's what you get when you have me on, man. I'm a rambler.
No, that's good. That's what we want.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm relieved to have ramblers because I'm among other ramblers.
Nice.
So cool. All right. So is there anything else that we didn't touch on, or did you feel pretty good about what we talked about?
Were there any questions in the chat or anything? I don't think so.
I didn't see questions. There's some comments and things, but I don't know if I saw any questions.
Cool.
All right, so I'll just leave everyone with that challenge. I want to reiterate it. Like, if you guys have done the hundreds, finish a comic. That's a challenge. So, just throwing it out there. Other than that, like, I think I also want to reiterate. I don't think any of us are against challenges. In fact, how we all pretty much became friends was through different challenges communities. Right. And so, and then Mike also put together the 200 days of making comics anthologies and stuff. And I mean, we're passionate about challenges. I think just also have this perspective that's like, make sure the challenge you're picking is actually, worth it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, I'm really excited to see Sisyphean Complex. So let's all go around and say where we can find everybody's work. I'll start. You're on my channel. If you haven't yet, go to quarterlystories.com, read my comic about faith and mental illness that I handwrote, hand-lettered, hand-inked, and have spent quite a few years on, and I'm wrapping up soon. And then, you're on my channel, so if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Mike, where can everybody find you? You mentioned Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon is a good one. I actually post a lot of stuff there that I don't even think anybody really knows about. Like whenever I finish an illustration or a piece of concept or whatever, if you're the kind of person that's like super into like, I don't know, process and just the breakdowns of exactly, step by step, like I do that all the time. I don't always post like religiously every single month, but when I don't do that, then like the next month I'll post like 3 times or whatever. So yeah, I've actually, I'm not like intentionally trying to plug my Patreon, but like as an artist, as a creative person, if you're like me, I got some really cool stuff up there because I just finished my favorite commissions from this year, and I put the whole process down from like the thumbnail to the roughs to the pencils to the inks to exactly the breakdown of my coloring process, so you could see like each layer of each different kind of color stage. It's pretty cool, and it's like $1. It's only $1. You can see all that stuff. I don't need your dollar. I'm not begging for your dollar. I'm just saying if you like that stuff, that would be a place to go to see that stuff because that's where I post. But anyways, so yeah, Patreon. I only want people to go there because it's like I put a lot of effort into it. Nobody shows up, so I'm thinking, somebody's got to show up, or I'm just gonna stop doing it. But yeah, there or sysfiend.complex.com, Instagram, or MySpace / Uberponer993 or something. I don't know. Somebody said MySpace, so I thought, hey, maybe my old profile's still up there. See some GIFs, some old animated GIFs.
Exactly. There's some sparkly rainbows and like unicorns. And,
actually, if my profile's still up there, it's a picture of my face, and then my eyes flash like a Terminator, and then my face splits apart, and there's like a robot.
That's amazing. There are some brief times where I miss MySpace. What was the guy's name on MySpace? Tom?
Tom. He was everybody's friend.
Yeah, so there was this funny during the whole like scandals with Facebook, there was this meme that went around where it was like Tom being like, I bet you wish you hadn't unfriended me, huh?
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway,
poor guy.
All right, so now that we've kind of went through that, Scott, where can everybody find you after they've gone to your YouTube channel and checked out your amazing comics videos that are like the editing and the thought behind it? I'm just going to kick it off because that's where they should go first.
yeah,
when they're done with that.
Yeah, you can find those on my YouTube channel. I also my website at circworks.com. And if you're watching this, if it's your first time, then maybe you don't know that we do this every single week, and it rotates back and forth from Josh's channel to mine. Usually on a Thursday night, but it can change. And we've always got different guests and everything. So if you want to know the rundown, if you want to know who's going to be on, what time it's going to be on, all that stuff, the best way to do that is to join our mailing list. And we don't spam you or anything like that. We just usually about 30 minutes before we go live, we send out an email to let you know where we're going to be, so you can hop in the chat and all that stuff, because YouTube's not as reliable with letting people know about that stuff. So we try to give you an option, so just so you can stay in the know.
Mm-hmm. I love it. All right. So with that said, we will thank you to everybody who joined us in the chats. It's always awesome. That's the majority of the reason we're doing this is for the people who show up. So thank you guys. Thanks for contributing to the conversation. And let us know how you guys feel about challenges in the comments too. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Are they always just 100% great, or could they potentially be like a mislead? Curious what you guys think. And till then, we will see you guys, I guess, next week. Bye.
See you.
Goodbye.